What are you sorry about?
It's a girl thing.
You're not late.
No. Diane.
Yeah. No, sir. Ellen, you lost a good friend.
I did.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little,
I'm sorry.
depressed, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you lose a 50-plus year friend.
Friendship.
You know,
Yeah.
friendship.
How's Fussy doing?
She's doing pretty well. I have not seen her yet. I did try to call this morning, but she'll call back.
When's the service?
We didn't know for sure, but George did see her yesterday, our friend George. And,
George Whalen.
and he said that at that time they were talking about Monday, but they didn't have that confirmed with either though. He wants to call Chico to do the service.
Jerry's coming to do that.
Yeah, that's the plan, and
Okay.
that's what Nikki had asked, you know.
Okay. Nikki Prisco. Judge Prisco. Do you know that name? You know that name,
The
don't
new
you?
people here
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
but not, you know.
Alice knows that name. Yeah. Yeah. Such a good guy. Yeah. What a good guy. It makes him. He always made it look easy too. One of those kind of guys, even when it's not. Yeah.
He was a
really
funny
funny guy. Yeah.
Every time we'd get together for a get-together, he would get up and do some sort of a skit,
Yes.
practically,
Yeah.
of something funny
Oh,
that
he was
was,
funny.
you know, current thing or
Yeah.
something, and he would tell some big story.
Yeah.
And he did a hilarious imitation of Lenny in the dental office. Did you ever see
No,
that
I
one?
didn't see that one. Yeah.
Oh, he was funny.
Yeah, funny guy. I have a story about him too. I was dating a woman who had a teenage daughter who wanted to have a party across the street from their house, and it was federal land. And the mother was trying to convince her daughter that it was a horrendously bad idea. So I said, I'll check with the judge. And so I laid it out to Ricky. He did not use a one word. He just did this. That's all he did.
Yeah, Betsy.
Yeah.
Betsy Queen said yes. You know, she and Nikki worked pretty closely.
Yeah,
When
I'm
he
sure.
was the judge, he
Yeah.
was some of his the town judge.
Yeah.
For years, and they worked together. And she said, he was always just too easy.
I'm not kidding you. I was
Yeah, he's soft-hearted. Yeah, he's soft-hearted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
what
she
she said.
loved him. She said he was much easier on everybody than I was. She said he's a treasure, you
Yeah,
know.
oh God, he's a real treasure.
You're almost a treasure.
Starting late.
Okay. Go. Okay. We're gonna, hi everyone, welcome. I thought we'd take a look at, I'm gonna preach on this on Sunday too, so I could use your help to improve it. Which is highly likely. My Bible's kind of falling apart a little bit.
How old is that Bible?
What's that?
How old is that Bible?
I bought this when I was in high school.
Wow.
So, my Harper Valley Study Bible, we called it. I thought we'd look at, we've talked about the birth of Isaac, right? And I thought we'd talk about another birth, and that's Jacob and Esau. I think it's 25 or something like that, right? Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about legacy today. Right when you look at 25, and you look at, the first paragraph, let's say, what do you notice?
What kind
This would be Genesis 25, Genesis 25.
Genesis
25 what?
1.
25.
Yeah, when you just scan it, it's kind of good to just, it's like a hunk of land, you just kind of scan it a little bit. See what kind of form you're looking at, and what do you see right off the bat?
A lot of names.
A lot of names. A lot of names. Okay, so we've got a little mini genealogy going here, right? Everybody see it? All right, and that is, we've said this before, but that is a literary device used in the Bible, all the way, Old and New Testament. It's a literary device to tell you we're going to switch it up now. We're going to go another direction than before. So they put these genealogies there for that purpose. It's pretty consistent, I would say. You see?
He was a busy guy.
Yeah, it was a busy one. One of the things though about the Bible is the span of the Bible is long, right? And but it's pretty brief. When you think about like the Gospels, like a little tiny little, you read it in an afternoon, no problem, right? You read it in an hour. These Gospels, you read the book of Genesis in probably an hour. I don't know how fast you read, but so it's tightly packed. Information and stories and so on. It's brief. The Bible is a big book, but it's kind of brief. Isn't that odd? Do you think that's odd? Who's this Hanyak that came out with a 300-page rebuttal of the FBI?
Yeah.
300 pages for one little event, right? Really. And of course, he's absolutely wrong. But, it's amazing the voluminous works that we see. And in that regard, the Bible, I think, is very, what's the word?
Compact.
Yeah, concise. It's,
Yeah.
with Jesus, the most important person that ever lived on the earth, as far as I'm concerned. You got the tiny little, Mark is 16 chapters, nothing. Right? For the most important person on earth. Go to the FDR library and see how they're doing with that. It just goes on and on and on and on and on.
I wonder if they had computers instead of, like Maureen does with her ink pens and everything, it would be a lot longer.
Yeah, or AI, right? With AI, you dial it in. Tell me about Jesus, and you're going to get, way more than the Gospels will tell you. So the word sufficient comes in again. Right? It's a really important word. Reformed Church people love that word. It's sufficient. It's enough to get you home. It's not going to tell you where every bar and restaurant is and where every, gas station is. It won't do that. But it's sufficient to assist a person in a life of faith. So, right? Does that make sense? So for the rest of it, and I've talked about this from the pulpit too, when Dan will play and he improvises, thank you. We had a little slippage this morning. When Dan improvises, the same idea is true for Christians. When you read the Bible, you have to improvise then what is happening. You have to fill in the blanks. You have to make it your own. It's improvisation is the Christian life. Right? People try to stay, St. Paul did, and other people did too. St. Paul, when he was a Pharisee, he tried to be strict with the notes. If you want to see it that way, he's very strict with the notes. And his life was a mess, because it doesn't work. So the life of the Spirit, improvisation are very similar concepts, I think. So you got to take whoever you are and translate it into a person of the kingdom. And that's going to look different for all of us, thank God. That's the genius behind Lyall, I think, is we've got improvisers that come in, all of us, and together hopefully we make some music. Make sense? it's I think a good model, I think, and I think it's parallel with the spirit of the Bible and the spirit of Christianity. Does that make horse sense? I'm having a hard time reading. Yes, no? All right. So 25, we've got a kind of a break in the action, and we've got new action now because of this genealogy. So we are going to read let's start with 19. Somebody read that. 19 through the end of the thing.
1 second.
Yeah, please.
These are the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Paddan, sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord granted his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. Children struggled together within her, and she said, If it is to be this way, why do I live? So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples born of you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, the elder shall serve the younger. When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red on his body like a hairy mantle, so they named him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand gripping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. When the sons grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man living in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he was fond of game, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
Okay. Does anybody know anything about Isaac as an adult? So he goes through this harrowing experience with his father Abraham. He's going to be sacrificed, right? That horrendous story. Yeah, it's one of the worst stories in the whole Bible. That's, of course, one of my favorites. But so he goes through that experience. What kind of a human being does he become? Isaac. How's he pick his wife? Anybody know? He doesn't. He asks one of his servants to go find him a wife. It's unheard of. And the servant will find his wife at a well story. Right? A well story. Yeah. And that particular well story will tell you the essence of Isaac, and that is he's a no-show.
He's traumatized at young.
Exactly. So he's been kind of cauterized or traumatized. He never recovers from it. He can't get off his butt. He's well, we call it, let's see, how can I say this without, he is a hush puppy man. Let's put it, if that makes sense.
No.
Do you know men who wear hush puppies?
No, I don't know.
Lucky you. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Susan
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, it goes back a ways.
A hush puppy man. He wears hush puppies. And or we would say there are soft men at the Admiralty. Do you know that little phrase? I made that phrase up myself, I think. I'm pretty sure I did.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's mine. Soft men at the Admiralty. In other words, the people that can't lead, they can't make the hard decisions. They're just weak men. And often it's because they've got early trauma in their lives and they just cannot get it going. That's Isaac. Yeah.
He didn't live up to his name then.
Well, he's laughter, laughter. Well, in the sense, keep talking, yeah.
No, I mean, you would think of him as becoming sort of an extroverted, joyous, happy, always.
It's triumph too,
Yeah.
right? My parents, I mean, they were aged,
Yeah.
nonagenarians or whatever you want to call it, I guess. And yeah, I'm a miracle child,
Mhm.
and he is. He's such a miracle child. He's a golden child. But he can't quite get it going to find a wife. Unheard of. He's so soft that he just cannot manage. You know people like that?
Well, maybe they just gave him everything he wanted, so he never had to make decisions.
Right,
He
and
never had
the
to-
guilt, right? You can
Yeah.
imagine Abraham, sorry about wanting to kill you.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just so complicated and so emasculating. He will never recover. He'll never recover.
Is there any information on how Isaac felt about his father?
That's a good question. I don't know.
So there's nothing in the Bible that...
Well, there might be. I'm just ignorant.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, that's something to check out. What's their relationship? But he's so already. Who's he favoring? All right, you got these twins coming out. They're very different. Who is he favoring?
The manly man.
The manly man, the hunter. And what is he like? The hunter, this kid.
He's hairy.
He's hairy. He's a redhead, right? He's a redhead, yeah. Hairy dude. That's an odd fact, isn't it? To put in the Bible. Why would they add that? What's possible? Why would you add that?
Description.
Yeah,
He was like a beast.
that's why you would add it.
And red is could be a threatening color.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy's an animal. Do you know any animals? I fish with them. Animals. Yeah, they eat with their hands. They don't bring implements. They eat with their hands. I could tell you some stories that would absolutely gross you out. But, yeah, you cook on an open flame. You rip apart your food. You drink in such a way that it goes down your... Right, do you know people like this? You do, unfortunately? You do? Yeah, well, they're...
I'm friends with one.
Well, how interesting. Yeah, they're kind of they're like animals. There are people that are like animals, They live like animals. And the story is going out of its way to get you there, to get the picture. This guy's an animal. And is he firstborn or secondborn?
First.
Right. So this animal is going to be in charge. He's taken over the firm, right? The eldest son will take over the firm. And the guy's a creature. This wonderful promise that Abraham got, in chapter 12, I'm going to bless you. You're going to become a walking blessing. You are going to bless the nations of the earth to the point where they're going to bless one another, and then you got this thing born. He's not going to do that. Right? He eats with his hands.
that the oldest was going to be the servant
Right.
of the youngest.
Right.
So,
So something's out of whack.
yeah, they came out backwards, or upside
Right.
down or something.
The elder will serve the younger. This hairy thing over here is going to serve the younger.
Mhm. The beast is going to be.
The beast is going to be second fiddle here. And the Bible will do this fairly often. The wrong person gets picked. When you think of like King David, right? He's the runt. Wrong person to be king of that's me. The wrong person who's going to lead God's people is David. The runt. The wrong person. But he does. So we've got convention, we've got God working already with, or God's people, at least thinking about it, that our conventions are not always in line with the will of God. What should happen better not happen. In this case, the elder, the beast, is not going to lead this thing. He cannot move this promise, this covenant forward. He can't do it. We're going to see why in a minute. So we're going to choose other to keep the covenant moving, the kingdom moving. Have we ever seen, let's say, presidents, U.S. presidents? Are there any outstanding presidents that should never have been in an Oval Office? But Lincoln, that's the one I go to. The wrong person. He's the wrong person. Right? He's not educated. He doesn't have pedigree. He doesn't have the fine education.
He doesn't have looks either.
Yeah, he's ugly as a bag of hammers. Bag of hammers was the best I could do
Yeah.
in those circumstances. I mean, he's ghoulish, right? He's ghoulish.
Intelligence.
What's that?
Self-educated.
He was not educated, but he was intelligent.
Well, he was
and
self-educated. He was fantastic,
self-educated,
right?
Yeah.
Fantastic
And he
attorney.
had ambition.
Ambition, smart, great with words, erudite, all those things. So the wrong person is the exact right person. And so the Bible is messing with us. You know, we expect a smooth story. The Bible will not give you one. It's not smooth. It's got these crevasses. You know, you're picking around through the Bible and you fall down 600 feet, and they're all over the place. So you got to watch Christians often, and where I come from especially, they've got the Bible in their back pocket. Jesus is in their back pocket. It's all smooth as silk. You know what I mean?
Answer for everything.
With answer for everything, and an easy answer. Oh yes, this is why we, and so on. They are what are animals that are bovines and those kind of animals that are barnyard animals? Is this on? They're not. It sounds like emancipated. That's not it. Animals that are farm animals. What do you call them?
Domestic.
They're domesticated. These are domesticated Christians. Right? Moo! And they all sound like that. Moo! Moo! Right? Whereas, I guess that's clear enough. Forget, I'm retiring. I can kind of do my thing, right? Not that I have. But, yeah, I mean, I've said this there, too. I've said that. I said it at seminary. Moo! That was disturbing for some of my colleagues. But that is a good question. Is the book of the Bible designed for us to become domesticated animals? They would say yes. Or is it a wild book, and it will make you into kind of a more spontaneous person that looks outside the box? That would be Jesus. Right? He's always outside the box. He is not domesticated. Does he know? Does Jesus know what it's like to be domesticated? Does he know the answers? Yes, he's been to synagogue. He's a good old Jewish boy. He's gone through his training. Terrific. But that's not who he is. He's outside the box. And then the big question is God outside the box?
How can you put God in a box?
Well, you can't. You can't. I mean, that's a good rhetorical question. But you cannot do it, and people constantly try to do it. That's why we're not a non-denominational church, because they want to put God and Jesus, and especially St. Paul, in a box. You can't. As soon as you do that, start mooing, because that's what you're going to become, and that's what your congregation is going to become. Right? This is my farewell tour. So yeah, if you start hearing moo, 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 from people, you're on the wrong track. Got God in my back pocket. We're best friends. He listens to me, changed his mind a few times because of how I'm feeling about things. Dangerous, danger, danger, danger. Okay? God will often choose the wrong person to move his covenant forward. Happens all the time.
Let's define wrong.
Well, he's out of line. I mean, he's the one that's going to get chosen is the younger. Mm-hmm. The older should be the one that takes this ball and runs with it. Mm-hmm. He won't do it. He can't do it. I mean, he's a savage. And so the one that can do it, I mean, he's going to do it by hook or crook. But he's the one that has the wherewithal to do it. He is a bit of a crook. We're going to find out. But even that, he's the wrong person too in some ways. But he's the one that's got to get this covenant going. The wrong person. David is also the wrong person as far as, he's from the wrong family, and he's the wrong kid in the wrong family. So, we've got that. And then Jesus, do you expect the Messiah of God to be born in a barn? Wrong person. He's got the pedigree, but it's the wrong person. I mean, nobody's even going to take him.
You mean he's the wrong person in the average person's
Yes.
thinking?
Yes.
But not that God picked the wrong person.
No, that's the
He
thing.
picked the right person.
That's
He
right.
knew.
That's the thing. God knows
Yeah.
who to pick.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't. And he's gonna raise up people who don't fit the mold. They don't have the pedigree to deserve leadership. But God will constantly do this. And people are furious. Just wait. This is not going to go well. He elevates people that don't deserve it. Don't fit the mold is what I'm trying to say. And hopefully the result is you've got a leader that has some sense of humility and gratitude. That this is going to take a little while for this cat to get there, but he's full of himself. But you see what I mean? It's a big deal. It's a big deal in the Bible. God knows, you don't. Can you live with it?
Well, there are people today in the conservative movement that say God picked Trump. He is our savior.
Right.
He's come, and they still believe.
Of course. And you know what they mean by that? Moo!
Yeah.
Moo!
I mean, that's the most
Moo!
ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And you hear it over and over
Right, they have cloven hooves if you look carefully.
Well, I don't know. I had somebody say that not too long ago that I think is fairly intelligent, but then
This is not about intelligence.
they're brainwashed.
This is not about intelligence.
I don't know.
No, this is not about intelligence. You know,
But it's certainly the wrong person.
what, you know,
But we didn't pick him.
an intelligent person who goes the wrong direction, it will do a great job at justifying the choice.
Mhm.
Over here, our friends over here at noon, by far, the most difficult person that walks into that room are the smart ones. They never get sober. Why? Because they could justify this and justify that. It's the dumb ones that get sober. Because they follow the rules. They want to do it. I mean, I'm being, harsh, but there is a lot of truth to that. They'll tell you that. If you're really smart, you'll be cunning. You'll hide it. You'll hide it better. You'll do this better. You'll hide that better. You'll justify this over here. You're busy doing everything but being sober. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Mhm.
The smart ones, you gotta watch out. Yeah. So, there's a lot of cunning people in this country. Cunning. So hopefully they'll be brought to ruin, but I don't know. Maybe not. Never know. Okay, so these two are twins. They're fraternal twins. Yes? They're not identical twins, they're fraternal twins. And they come out, and how do they come out? Did we read that yet?
Mhm.
How do they come out?
First one came out all red.
Harry Red.
Harry,
His brother came out grabbing his heel.
he's a heel grabber. He's a heel. Somebody who's a heel, this is where it comes from. He's a heel. A heel grabber. Here's another little piece of information. Why would you add that? He probably didn't, right? But it's there. They want to say something about this. What would that indicate?
Setting us up
Say more.
to expect that something is going to, untoward is going to happen.
Okay, so it's like a literary device, right? We're going to get a little,
Yeah.
like a good novel will, right? They'll slip in a little wink, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Bible's smart, right? And, okay, he's a heel grabber. What kind of a person are we talking about? Who's a heel grabber?
An opportunist.
An opportunist.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? It says, so he was named Jacob. What's the meaning of Jacob?
Jacob,
Yaakov means heel grabber.
a heel grabber.
Oh, that's what it
I
means.
think so, yeah. Yeah, here comes the heel grabber. What else? Okay, so you're an opportunist. What other sorts of characteristics? With names, the Bible often wants us to, and place names as well. The Bible wants us to pump the brakes a little bit while we're reading. When you get a name or a place name, pump the brake. Like,
Something to think about.
yeah, something to think about.
Question.
Yeah, so have you ever known a heel grabber? Have you? You have. Yeah, Karen, that was a very enthusiastic affirmation.
They're everywhere.
Amen, Karen.
Amen. Yeah. Would we like to put a little flesh on that idea? No? You guys are funny. Well, I'm going to make you do it anyway. I'm pumping the brake here. A heel grabber is an opportunist. What else? Karen, did something come to mind when you were thinking of a heel grabber?
Yeah, I mean, every venue you find yourself in, you will meet people who are opportunists. That
Thanks,
are,
Karen. Thanks for coming.
I'm not saying in the company here. But
No.
in general, I mean, at school, any kind of environment, you will find somebody that's finding an opportunity, a user.
A user.
Yeah, that's a good one.
When they talk about people that relate to others, not as human beings, but they use a term. What's that term? I know the term. Cattle? I love that, but that's not what I'm thinking about. You want me to moo again, don't you? They have a style of relating that is called, Trump does it. He has a style of relating to human beings that's, gosh, it's rising.
Demeaning?
Well, that too, but it's.
Sort of what can you do for me?
That's it.
But I can't think of a word either.
What is the word for that?
Yeah, that's what.
It's coming, it's rising, but this could take time.
Finding an advantage
Exactly.
over his opponent.
Yeah, well, that too.
And he'll use different techniques to do that
Yeah,
by slamming people down.
yeah.
Or finding their
It's
weak.
like, it's not, this isn't the word, but it's contractual. I will do this, you will do that.
Narcissistic?
Well, it is narcissistic. It's a way of seeing another human being. You don't see them as a human being.
Yeah, I'm looking for that.
You see them as a person who will enter into a contract. I will do this, you will do this.
To make yourself feel better.
That's right, because you're,
Sociopathic?
well, it is sociopathic, right? You know, it has to do with how a self sees another self. You objectify the other person, is what you do. Gosh, that's a-
You're a tool,
You're a tool, exactly.
making me crazy too.
What is that word? I hear it all the time too. I can't come
Yeah,
up with
yeah, all the time.
It's not, it's transactional. That's the word. Transactional, that's the word. Okay, so I didn't give enough time. Isn't this fun? Yeah, it's fun. It's transactional. In other words, you don't care about the person. You care about what you can get from that person. You're transacting business, right? And they may see it, the other person might see it as being, if you're a regular person, you're being moved to a decision, but they're not seeing you as a person. They're seeing you as a transaction. Do you see what I mean? If you're a normal person, this is hard to even get your head around. I think, because our assumption is it's person to person. That's not the case, but always.
They'll use people as stepping stones
Exactly.
to get to where
Perfect.
the position they want.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Users.
Users.
And if you don't let yourself get used, you get trounced and
Exactly.
stepped on.
'Cause you're a thing.
Demeaned
Right.
and.
Right. Rather than say, sorry, we can't do
Yeah.
this, sorry,
Yeah,
I
we
wish you
can't
well,
do
how's your
that,
family,
so-
are you okay? And,
So,
we're
well, you're being killed because you.
Right, you're
don't
gonna be,
do what-
I'm
yeah.
gonna destroy
I'm gonna
this
destroy
person,
you.
because you're not a person.
Hanging.
Yeah, they're expendable, perfect. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in this office, we go through, difficult stuff from time to time. And I'll sit people down and say, when we walk out of this office, we're gonna be friends. No matter what happens here. That's not transactional. We're gonna be friends. That's the whole point of this, is to be friends. So, because you don't always win an argument, right? I mean, that's life, you don't always get your way and get what you want. But this guy does not operate. Jacob does not operate on this level. Esau is going to operate, we're going to see this in a minute, he's going to operate at a savage level. And that'll be the next little section here. Jacob works on a transactional level. And then the question is, does God use these manipulators for good? That'll be another question underneath this. Does God use horrendous human beings for good? And that is the argument, one of the arguments of the evangelical community with Donald Trump. We know he's horrible, but he's our guy, and he is going to move our country forward in a righteous way, just like God did with Jacob, or David, who was also very transactional, and pretty narcissistic character, or St. Paul. They know these characters are less than human, I would say, even all three of them. But God uses the wrong people to move his covenant forward, and he's doing it again with the comb over. You see the logic? You can see the logic. And like a lot of things, there's truth and then there's validity. You use validity, that's a valid argument, I think. I think it is. And then there's the truth. Is that the truth? And that's what, I think we're fighting over that issue in our country. You know, is it a valid argument or is it the truth? People that follow Donald Trump will say it's the truth. People that don't say, well, that's valid, but it's not true. See what I mean? That's our discourse, I would say, in our country. Does that ring true? Yeah, okay. He's sent by God just like these other yahoos who did God's will in a certain time and place. Good luck with sleeping tonight. Okay. So, all right. So the Lord and the Lord said to her, all right. So the Lord's involved in this little family situation. If you're family phobic, I can understand it. So can we continue on? See what happens. Let's see what happens.
Once, when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field and he was famished. Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, I'm famished." Therefore he was called Edom. Jacob said, "First show me your birthright." Esau said, "I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and he drank, and he rose and went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Okay.
The brightest penny.
Not the brightest penny, no. In fact, it says, when Esau says to Jacob, "Give me that red stuff," he says it twice in Hebrew. Give me that red stuff. He's so inarticulate. Good with his hands, great hunter. But he's so inarticulate, he can't even get around to saying, "Could I have some stew?" Give me some of that red stuff, says the redhead. Right? The whole thing is just sort of a SNL skit, Saturday Night Live skit. The redhead says, "Give me that red stuff." You want him leading the charge here? The covenant? This is the guy that's the elder son. Give me some of that red stuff. Are there any modern applications to this? I say this very same thing, nearly the very same thing when I'm at McDonald's at the drive-thru. Just give me something to eat. And they respond, of course, "No, you can't do that. You have to order off the menu." I don't want to order off the menu. I want to eat. I'm hungry. Give me something to eat.
You're the favorite.
Drive up to Wendy and we'll discuss it. You know? Right?
Okay, that's good.
Get the picture? This guy is just a Neanderthal.
Uh-huh.
He's a Yahoo.
Just a yabo, a yokel, a redneck. Yeah, he's a child of God, of course. That's what I meant to say. And he is. And he is. And we'll find out that he is, too. He grows. It's not easy.
Why did they say he despised his birthright? I mean, he already sold it, he didn't think a thing about it, but
That's
why
right.
did he hang it? I mean,
Hell with that.
despising it is another
It's just
thing.
a joke. It's just a stupid ass joke. You know, he offered, you know, he's got stuff, lentils on his beard. I mean, it's a bad optic. Really bad optic. And, you know, who cares about this fairy tale, you know?
I didn't,
Well, you know,
I don't like that word.
don't want it, God is a joke, you know, I mean, you know, the whole thing is just his terrible attitude.
It's like he only lives for the minute.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, he
right.
doesn't think of the
Thinking
future.
ahead.
He's throwing his future away.
Yeah.
As long as he gets his stuff to eat.
This is red stuff.
As long
His
as
red,
he
red
doesn't
stuff.
appetite satisfied.
His red stuff, right, that's life. Life is red stuff. And that's as far as we're gonna go. And, you know, the Hebrew too, really, I mean, the Hebrews and the Greek too, but the Hebrew especially. Hebrew is a language of the stomach, the visceral. Greek is the language of the brain. One of the things I loved Hebrew for that very reason. It's all emotional, you know. So this guy, in the Hebrew itself dumbs down these words when he's speaking. They could choose other words, you know, that would smooth it out and make them sound smarter, but they purposely make them sound really dumb. Like a thud, like I'm trying to think of a better word than all that. That's too easy. Yeah, well, he's a savage. And he sounds like a savage. He can't even come up with a word. He won't even bother to come up with a better words to describe what he wants. So like, I'm really famished, I really want something great. Hey, that looks like a wonderful pottage, you know, and you know, you could really flour it up in the Hebrew. They won't. It's just moo. Right. Have you ever met anybody that despised their birthright?
Harry. Prince Harry, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good one. That's a really great one. How's that going? I haven't really followed that. He's married to Meghan Markle. I don't even know who that is.
He made
She's an American,
amends
right?
with his
Is
father.
that, huh?
He made amends with his father, or vice versa, I'm not sure
They
what
did?
that meant.
Right,
Oh,
no.
I missed that.
And he's another one with a
These
great
numbers that
vocabulary,
are
the king.
Those
That
papers,
you don't-
you read, you know.
Well,
ones that really
Harry's
are
wife,
trying to-
Meghan, is of color, and apparently there was some language in the monarchy somewhere about what was their child going to look like or something, wasn't, did?
Yeah. Two DVDs.
Yeah, using Jerry Curl or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Is that what they were worried about?
And Megan says that weird, so that's what happened with Harry.
Okay, all right. It was all about race? Is that
I think part of it was part of
part
it.
of it?
Yeah.
Wrong person? She's the wrong person?
American. She's not into the caste, you know, the class society.
Right,
It was probably hard for her to get used to living like that.
sure, yeah.
I mean, when she first married, they had this thing about how the princes, the queen and the princesses have to sit so that their legs are crossed a certain way. It's
Yeah,
everything
if you're in your late
is
30s,
orchestrated.
by then you have pretty good ideas of what is valuable to you and what's not.
Yeah.
She had been a lot younger.
She had grown up in that culture.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she
yeah.
you know, but she came, not only is she American, but she's also mixed race, so that's, you know, she doesn't fit in the box.
Okay, wrong person.
Yeah.
Wrong person.
And
So-
the other one in the British line, the one who married the divorced
William?
woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
Edward.
Prince Edward.
Yeah, he abdicated.
Right.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
They never-
What was her name? Wallace
Wallace
Simpson,
Yeah.
twice divorced.
Yeah,
Right, I do know that one.
yeah, that was a big scandal.
Yeah, so you despise your birthright.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he was to be king.
Edward. Yeah, well, he was king, he abdicated, right, for a short time he was king. And then the stutterer came in, the wrong person.
He turned out to be a good guy.
He turned out to be terrific, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Winston Churchill was the wrong guy. His mother was American. Yeah, no, he was not very nice. He had a terrible childhood. The golden child that's totally and utterly avoided. That's a tough combination. Yeah, that's Winston Churchill. He cried a lot. Yeah, who gives up their birthright? How could you give up your birthright by being an American citizen? What would you do? What's possible? What would it look like? What could it look like?
Moved to Canada.
Move to Canada, right? Yeah, exactly. New York Times had an article about that this weekend. They talked about lack of leadership. You're not a leader if you leave the country. You gotta stay here and lead. It was a pretty good article. Did anybody see it? It was good. Yeah, I thought it was good. Any other way to despise your birthright? Were all of us born here in the United States? Yeah. Were we all born here? Yeah. How could you
Changing your citizenship.
change your citizenship? Despise your birthright. Yeah. Any other way?
Well, you could hide it by trying to change your looks.
Change your looks? Mhm. Okay. Anything else? Well, you can go into the Capitol with a weapon. That would be a good way to do it. Right? How, we talk, people talk about, I've never heard the word treason used so often.
You see the demonstration of the white supremacists who wore white masks, so they couldn't be identified that marched in Washington yesterday.
That was yesterday. Yeah,
Or Sunday.
yeah.
Did you see the guy on the bicycle talking to them? They had it on the news. Some guy had his bicycle out, and there were all these Nazis standing there with this.
White
And
masks.
the little fat little guy there looked like a wimp to me, and he was yelling at him everything like,
Yeah.
go away, we don't want you here, get out of our, who do you think you are? And
Despising,
he was just yelling at him.
yeah,
And they're
despising
just
your
standing-
birthright, right?
And they're just standing there, you
Yeah,
know, with
yeah.
the masks on and cowards.
Cowards, right? Cowards. Yeah, who's despising whose birthright? That's another question. They would say, we're defending our birthright.
Mhm. They think they're patriots.
That's right.
But we don't want anybody to know who we are.
Right, yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
Give me liberty or give me death if you can identify me.
Mhm.
The cowards.
Cowards, yeah. Yeah,
But the brave one there was the guy on the
right,
bicycle.
little chubby
I
guy.
sure wouldn't have said
Yeah.
that.
Well, in New Jersey, when I was at PPAC Gladstone, we had people who were KKK in the congregation,
Uh-huh.
yeah. The minister, former minister, was the head of it in in that area.
Where was this?
Julius Prochnow was the head of the KKK, Reverend
What
Prochnow.
town?
Pardon me?
What town?
P-Pack Gladstone, Central Jersey, Somerset County. I know all this because a person who knew all these people, was related to these people, invited me over to her house and said, let's have a little tea. Hang on, I've got some things to tell you. They still have their stuff in their, a lot of them still have their stuff in their closets. Oh yeah. You know, they're old men now at that point, but.
They had the hats and everything, the white.
Yep. They weren't after blacks, they were after Catholics. That was their thing, Catholics. We're gonna keep Catholics out here. And they did. Yeah, that was a fun congregation. So, yeah, we had a ball there. Fortunately, it was the fastest 5 years I've ever had. But, yeah, that's what we're going after, is who gives up their birthright is a really good question. And a good conversation, I think, too. I would say in the country as well. What does it mean to have a birthright? Does a woman who walks with two little kids in her hands 1,500 miles to get to Texas, is she the kind of person we want in the country? Or do we want the guy with the hat on, the pointy hat? You see what I mean? It's a good, and I don't have easy answers for this either, of course I don't. But it's a good conversation. Who do you want on your team? I want her on my team. Not the pointy hat guy.
Speaking of which, are we doing anything with migrants who are coming up this way?
We are, Grace is. You know, I would be open to that. I think we would be open to it.
What's Grace doing?
Well,
What do they do?
they've been part of the migrant
I
ministry for
realize
years.
that, but I mean,
I would
I think you were talking about as far as housing and taking care of.
Well, I'd like to know
people
about
and
that,
kind of
what's
thing.
going on with that. What if you have time, could you find out? Yeah, I know my friend Frank Alagna is an Episcopal priest in Kingston. He's running all that over there. There was an article yesterday about a wedding that was canceled at a venue. Did you read that?
Yeah.
And they're gonna house migrants there, or at least temporarily. I don't know how they pulled that off. I should ask Frank, because he's probably the one that did it.
Is it Rockland County that they're all marching again, they're all up in arms, they don't want those migrants there.
Right.
Well, they say
Well,
they
I don't
have
know.
no facilities.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a problem, you know, it's space, of course,
Yeah.
right,
And
space.
it's not only that, it's like there's no transportation in some of these, like Dutchess, there's public transportation.
I know it.
Scarce. So how do they get to a job?
Exactly, yeah. Well, what they do in Poughkeepsie is they just line up in the morning. I've seen that many
Right.
times. So you just pick up your
Day
guys,
laborers.
and off you go.
They do that in Dover too.
I didn't know that.
Most
Yeah, it's a
likely,
huge issue. I mean,
Yes.
really, it's gigantic, especially if you consider that these people are human beings. Then it gets complicated. If they're not human beings, it's much easier.
There has to be some way to assimilate them into various communities, but
You would think
until
so.
they get a plan for it.
Well, let's
I
see,
don't
do we have
how
a,
it's-
do we have a big empty building anywhere in town?
I don't think so.
Well, there might be one right there, actually.
With no facilities.
No, but, you know,
It's plumbing and electric.
if the Chinese can set up huge hospitals in a weekend, we might be able to pull something off. You know, we're not as bright as they are. But, you know, it's a matter of the will, I would say. Wouldn't you?
Well, we used to set up hospitals during COVID.
I know,
mean,
I
in the
know.
city, they were
Oh,
setting them up.
all over the
everywhere.
place, right.
In
It's,
no time.
it's a matter of the
Yeah.
will. Yeah, like a lot of things. Well, okay, so do you want to, what's your pleasure? Do you want to continue with this story? Because there's more to come.
This is
Red and juicy.
Well, we've got, for those that are interested, we've got a little lunch at 1. I made asparagus soup. That turned out
That
okay.
sounds wonderful.
It's not bad. So that's what that'd be my contribution, plus a little salad, I'm doing a little salad now.
Is it creamy?